Jonathan woke up slowly. His vision was fuzzy, like when you wake up in the morning and can't see clearly at first. He felt confused and tired, like he had been sleeping for a really long time. The room smelled like a hospital, all clean and weird, and he could hear machines making soft noises around him. There were tubes and wires attached to his arms. Checking how he was doing, he got scared and tried to sit up, but someone gently pushed him back down. "Easy there, Jonathan. You've been through quite an ordeal," said Dr. Shane, a kind middle-aged man with warm eyes. He adjusted some of the machines, checking the readings before turning his attention back to Jonathan. "What happened?" Jonathan croaked, his voice hoarse and weak. "You were in a coma," Dr. Shane explained gently, "you and several other children. It's been a puzzling situation, but you're awake now, and that's a good sign." As Jonathan slowly started to come to his senses, the doctor continued, "A few troopers by the river saw you floating and managed to drag you to the hospital just in time. It's a miracle you survived. I can't even imagine how you got out there in that state." Jonathan's mind struggled to process the information. He faintly remembered playing with his action figures, but then it was like a fog settled over his memory. "What caused it?" he asked. "That's what we're trying to figure out," Dr. Shane replied, a troubled expression crossing his face. "But don't worry, you're safe now." As the doctor spoke, flashes of memories returned to Jonathan. He remembered his mom's voice, warning him to run away from something dangerous before everything went dark. "My mom," he blurted out suddenly, alarmed. "Is she okay?" Dr. Shane nodded reassuringly. "We're doing everything we can to find your mom and the other missing parents. The police are involved, and they'll be here shortly to talk to you about what you remember." Jonathan's heart pounded in his chest, and he felt a surge of determination to share everything he knew. He had to find his mom, and he had to make sure whoever was responsible for the Comas paid for their actions. As if on cue, the door to his room opened, and a police officer entered, followed by Dr. Shane. "This is Officer Williams," the doctor introduced. "Hi, Jonathan," Officer Williams greeted with a friendly smile. "Dr. Shane tells me you might have some information that could help us. Do you remember anything?" Jonathan nodded, taking a deep breath as he recounted the events leading up to his coma. He told them about his mom's concerns regarding contaminated water and how she had threatened to take action against Mark and his shady factory. Mark was his stepfather, and Jonathan had always sensed something off about him. A few days ago, Jonathan was playing with his action figures in the living room when the news played in the background, reporting on the growing cases of sickness and children falling into comas. He overheard his mom's worried voice talking about contaminated water and implicating Mark in the poisoning of the town due to his questionable business practices. The next day, Jonathan couldn't find his mom, and when he asked Mark about her, he lied, claiming she had gone to visit her friend. But Jonathan knew something wasn't right. He decided to investigate, and when Mark left in his truck, Jonathan secretly climbed in the back. To his horror, he discovered his mom's backpack hidden there, confirming Mark's deception. He listened in on Mark's conversation over the phone and learned about the illegal medicines being manufactured in the factory with waste chemicals polluting the school's water supply and making the kids sick. Jonathan knew he had to confront Mark and find his mom even if it meant putting himself in danger. He knew that direct confrontation wouldn't work, so he did the one thing he knew his mother would have told him to do: find information and go to the police. And he knew just how to do that. He knew that Mark went somewhere for a few hours every night in his truck, and if his hunch was correct, his mother would be at the very same place. As Jonathan hid in the back of the truck that night, his heart raced. He knew he was risking everything to find the truth about his mom's disappearance and the mysterious comas that plagued his town, but he couldn't stand by and do nothing. Before he had time to doubt his plan, Jonathan saw Mark come into the garage just as he had hoped. As they started to drive away, Jonathan heard Mark receive a phone call, and as he listened to the conversation, his worst fears were confirmed. The factory Mark ran was involved in manufacturing illegal medicines, and the waste chemicals were contaminating the school's water supply, causing sickness among the children. Staffman felt anger and determination surge within him. He had to stop Mark and his associates from harming anyone else. Just as he was about to make his escape, the truck door suddenly swung open, and Mark stood there with a sinister grin on his face. "I knew you were up to something, you little brats," Mark sneered, pulling Jonathan out of the truck roughly. Jonathan's heart pounded in his chest as he stared defiantly at Mark. "You can't keep hurting people like this," he shouted, his voice trembling with bravery. "Oh, can I?" Mark chuckled darkly, grabbing Jonathan's arm with a vice-like grip. "You're in way over your head, kid, and now you're going to see firsthand what happens to those who mess with me." Mark dragged Jonathan into the decrepit factory. and in a dimly lit corner, he saw his mom lying unconscious against the wall. Relief and fear washed over him as he rushed to her side, but Mark quickly tied them both up with thick ropes, ensuring they couldn't escape. Time passed agonizingly slowly, and as the night deepened, Jonathan's mom started to stir. Their eyes met, and she gave him a small, reassuring smile. They began to whisper, quietly planning their escape. Jonathan's mom told him about the creek nearby. It was their only chance to lose Mark and his associates. Around midnight, when the night was at its darkest, Jonathan and his mom put their plan into action. They managed to free themselves from the ropes, and with utmost caution, they sneaked out of the factory. As they ran through the dilapidated halls and overgrown grounds, they could hear Mark's associates shouting and chasing them, accompanied by the barks of fierce dogs. The adrenaline fueled their escape, but they knew they had to stay ahead of their pursuers. Jonathan's mom guided him to the creek, instructing him to cross to the other side to throw off the dog's scent tracking. Fear and determination pushed Jonathan forward, but in his haste, he slipped and fell into the water. The icy chill took him by surprise. Struggling to stay afloat, Jonathan tried to swim, but the water felt thick and his movements became sluggish. He gasped for breath. The fumes from the factory mixed with the water, making him feel dizzy and disoriented. When he heard a sudden gunshot from the side of the river, his mom was on, but before he could turn around and look, his vision blurred and he floated away. The last thing he remembered were strong arms and a man in uniform pulling him out of the water until he woke up in the hospital today. In the hospital room, Jonathan finished recounting the events to Dr. Shane, who listened intently. Jonathan's first and biggest concern was the safety of his mom, as he feared that she did not manage to escape that night. The doctor's expression was grave as he assured Jonathan that they would report everything to the police and launch a thorough search operation for his mom. The next day, hope filled the air as the entire town rallied together to help find the missing parents and bring justice to those responsible. Jonathan's story had touched the hearts of many, and the community was determined to support him. Then, in an unexpected turn of events, the woman from Jonathan's story walked into the hospital room. It was his mom, alive and well. Tears streamed down Jonathan's cheeks as he rushed to embrace her. She had managed to elude her captors after their escape, but she had been hiding to avoid putting Jonathan in further danger. In a tearful reunion, Jonathan's mom explained how his bravery and determination had helped the police catch Mark and his accomplices. The factory was shut down and the illegal operations were exposed. The contaminated water supply was treated, and the children finally received proper medical attention. Jonathan's mom had been shot during their escape, but with medical care, she assured him she would recover fully. The town celebrated Jonathan's heroic efforts, and the children who had been in coma started to wake up one by one to the joy and relief of their families. The police arrested Mark and his associates, and they faced justice for their heinous crimes. The town was slowly healing, and the community came together stronger than ever. Jonathan became a symbol of hope and bravery. He showed that even when things were really tough, being brave and determined could help a lot. He and his mom kept going, helping each other, and they got even closer. The town was so thankful to Jonathan for saving them, and they knew that whatever problems came their way, they could handle them together as a strong community.